The screen tells me that I am alive, which is so exciting. So, number 20, 20 weeks. Ooh. Okay. So much for my oh so charismatic, hip, funny introduction to a video. I find those really annoying. Hey, everyone, that stuff. Anyways, everyone else likes it. I don't. Well, okay, what I want to talk about is just some movies. And I don't really know that I ever get to talk about these movies, and I don't like to give away stuff about movies or have it told to me, which makes it really short. Just feel like I'm going to say the titles and that's it. But maybe I'll talk a little bit about why they're on my mind. The first are very close in production time. One is from 1973 and one from 1975. First one's called The Last Detail. It's based on a novel and concerns sort of the day-to-day American, military experience on base in the United States, but it doesn't take place on the base. Anyway, it's not really worth telling you much more about it because I just think you should watch it. Then the other one, made very soon afterward in 1975, is called Smile, set in small town America. And it is notable. I just realized as I was kind of poking at the internet, looking at these, both their screenplays were either written or partially written by a guy named Robert Towne, and makes me want to look up lots and lots of stuff and see whether he features in many other films that I like from that era, or maybe has worked on films that I haven't seen, because then I would seek them. There's something about the way the guy writes that I find very, very personally important, if that makes any sense. A related movie along the same lines stylistically is a little bit better known, perhaps. It's called Shampoo. It's one of Warren Beatty's first movies. And anyway, the feeling that I have from all of these is, I suppose you can only really call it deep authenticity. They're not attempting to be journalistic. They're not attempting to really, they're not what anybody would call message films, but I find them extremely powerful, hard-hitting, delivering a message through their content rather than anybody telling it to you. Each one needs to be watched all the way through, listening to the dialogue all the way through the final scene. The story is incredibly solid, but you don't know what it is, and just rest in it as you go along. You actually have to be engaged and understand what the characters are doing. And a lot of stuff becomes clear through the course of each film. Not really things like revelations or backstory. Well, technically backstory, yes, but more in terms of just why this is happening. And I like them quite a bit. Just to pick a slight contrast, there's a movie from the 80s called Lost in America, which is one of these movies that I find incredibly deeply affecting in such a fashion that I won't watch it again. It's too hard hitting, and the things that I find less authentic in it stand out so badly that bothers me. So the parts that are good, or rather that I really value, hit too hard, and the parts that I don't value are way out of place in my mind as I watch. So anyway, but it kind of gives you the same idea, you get the idea that it's basically a camera and a script and some good actors. One thing about the movies that I mentioned is that they all feature actors who were either unknown at the time or little known, or their biggest, splash had just occurred and probably in production didn't really, the production of the films I'm talking about were not really made in the awareness of that big splash, if it even had happened yet. So you're going to see a lot of actors you recognize. None of them are playing the part that you know them for, the one that they have perfected, or the persona or the styles and the quirks and that's so him, and oh, he's going to be in this movie, well, he's going to do these things, and I got to see that, because for some reason it's important to see the actor that you like doing that thing again. Anyway, this is not the case. You'll be actually seeing much more ensemble-based acting and an approach toward the story on everyone's part that really has very little to do with showcasing, this particular person happens to be in our film as a marketing feature. So that's well worth it. To name them again, The Last Detail and Smile. And then that brings me to a movie that's made much later, 1988, that is long past the point when such films were widespread. You can certainly find plenty of filmmakers who were still operating in that fashion, but at that point, they were now sort of designated boutique or specialized audience movies, and they weren't simply out in the theaters like the ones I was talking about actually were, in a sort of ordinary way. Let's see. The one I'm thinking of is called Pass the Ammo, and I'm not even going to tell you who's in it, just like I didn't for the other two. If I did, it would kind of ruin it. You would say, oh, he's in it. And you'd go in expecting to see, him do the thing or her do that thing. Don't. I don't know if it's even possible for anyone in the modern day to watch a movie cold. I mean, you don't know a thing. You just get it, click it. Just if there's a paragraph or if there's a cast list or if there's anything, just blur your eyes. Don't look. Just play it. Take the time. Make sure nobody's going to interrupt you. Say, I'm in it. I'm going to do this, and I don't know anything. Except, Ron said, go do this. It would be fantastic to encounter anyone who did this, to be able to talk about these films with. I want to. I like them. I don't like pundit talk on movies. I don't like reviews. I tend to, avoid that whole entire thing. I don't know anything about any upcoming movie, and I, berate people I know when they talk like I should. So anyway, I would really love to talk about The Last Detail or Smile or Pass the Ammo. And I'd love to talk about it with somebody who was not tainted by the sort of foreknowledge and the contextualizing the cast and the notion of where this movie fits into pop culture and what who said about it. Rotten Tomatoes, how many stars, whatever. All that stuff. Just do it without. See what happens. I'd love to. Well, anyways, what else am I got happening? Is that grammar? That's not grammar. What else is happening? It is late summer, and it is kind of a nice, I sort of dropped for this week especially, and it might go on for another week, just dropped the urgency on a whole bunch of things. And one of them was the sense of, must enrich children, kind of tension, stress. And I said, you know what? We are going to be a little lazy. We are going to kick around. And here's the funny thing. It's better. I was, without planning it or making a thing out of it, I took Globe down, and Eric and I went over, a lot of things, just pointing stuff out and where, and Annika hopped in, and, Jonathan stuck his head in and said, oh, I learned in school this, and so anyway, this whole kind of educational sequence had to do with a lot of history and language and stuff, just really boomed over this casual conversation just by pointing at the globe. It began with Eric asking me about the color of the harvest moon and why. Well, that meant taking out the globe, and that meant having Cecilia stand over there and be the sun and talking about the angle of light hitting the earth and stuff like that. And that brought us to solstices and equinoxes and kind of went on from there. Well, the point was that it was a conversation rather than a planned lesson with a curriculum. The same thing has been happening in a few other ways. I like the whole idea of one parent, one kid going off and doing things instead of these sort of Mission to Mars family, campaigns to Mission to Mars family, campaigns to go to a place. I mean, those happen and that's fine. But I really like just casual living where a parent takes a kid more or less at random to go do a thing, get an errand or two done, stop off somewhere that you like, that occurs to you or that you plan, and just talk about whatever comes up. So I did that with Jonathan yesterday, and the effect is just amazing. I mean, all of a sudden it's been like solid, much calmer, much more chatty, much more relaxed, talking with his siblings, about all kinds of things. All kinds of things just are changed, for hours and days after you do that. So today was Annika, and we did the same thing. And again, she's in the middle of we're at this kind of chocolatey place, right? And she's nibbling on a teeny tiny, like flavored, raspberry chocolate biscuity thing, nibbling on it, and drinking her cocoa. And we're talking, and she's got her dragon books that she's reading, and I'm making some notes on the stuff, and we're hanging out and talking in between. And she kind of looks up and she goes, "This is really nice. This is great." And I kind of have to remember that. That's what I need to do, is not, be a little too formal in all of this, or a little too planned, or a little too high expectation. And then these things come up that absolutely exceed any high expectations that you might have had. So anyway, that was nice. Have a nice summer. Talk to you next week. Please chit chat with me. Catch the movies, or one if you can. Take care.